Okay. Testing, testing. One, two, three. It's been a while, so I'm a little off here, but we are live. Welcome back to the JeSpective, where I do cultural commentary, go over some life lessons, and everything in between. Guys, it has been some time. I've actually been away for I don't even know at this point, but but a little too long. All right, so I was sitting back and thinking to myself, what would I be able to do today in order to just get back into the swing of things? And I figured there's a debate that happened recently, and it's about Charlie Kirk and the discourse that has happened in the wake of his death, the reactions online, the differing opinions, right versus left, all this nonsense. And I just found something interesting come across my timeline. It is a debate between Abba of Abba and Preach and Stevie Knight from Night Talk. So, I mean, right on the outset, if you're kind of getting, if you're kind of interested into like how they would, I guess, where they typically lean politically, Abba is more on the left, but again, he's very reasonable in his approach, and Stevie is more on the right. I don't watch too much of his content. I've seen some of his videos. Um, Personally, I'm more of a fan of Abba. That's how this video came across my feed in the first place, as I've been subscribed to them for years. But I mean, this is gonna be fun. So we're gonna go through it today. We're gonna react to it, see how I feel about some of these different elements that they're talking about, and as always, we're just gonna have fun with it, guys. So without further ado, let's get into it. Get these giant cans on. All right. Here we go. Oh man, it feels like when I haven't done a stream in a while, I get back here and I start thinking to myself, how do I do this again? Because it does not feel it does not feel right. I feel like I'm gonna break something. All right. Like I'm a boomer. All right, here we go, guys.
So let's get started. So Stevie, you watched our video and you had some critiques for it. So yeah, let me know what you think we was getting wrong.
Oh, okay. Here's the thing. These guys talk kind of slow. So as always with me, I am not gonna watch this at regular speed. I'm gonna speed this thing up. Okay. So it is going to be at 1.25. I'm gonna go 1.3. All right, 1.3 speed. Okay, it's an hour, and I want to kind of get through most of it. And I'm not doing it at regular speed. I'm sorry. I think at this speed, you can still hear what they're saying, and it's perfectly fine. Y'all feel differently, you let me know, but I think you're gonna be okay. All right, let's do it.
In regards to how we handled this Charlie Kirk situation.
Well, I want to keep what I felt was wrong towards the end, but leading up to that, I just think it's a differing in opinions, which is fine. That's what we're here for, man. But if I can recall correctly, the beginning of it, it was more like a you were talking about how the right wants to, or we need to tone it down. Or I don't want to say we, right? It was more like focusing on the right versus the left. You know what I mean? And you felt a way about. I'm assuming what your intent was is focus on the right. Now we need to tone it down, and we're doing the same. And we're doing the same thing that the left was doing, bro. And where I differ in opinion with you as far as this whole situation is that I don't think anything should be toned down if we're highlighting, if we're focusing on the right people. You know what I'm saying? I think that the right versus left is being overhyped, which makes sense because we're divisive as hell in society, man. But the demons are demoning. You know what I mean? And regardless if it's right or left, I feel like, these people need to be held accountable, and we need to zero in on these individuals. And I don't think a toning down at all would work, given the climate.
Okay.
And I'm not gonna say I felt some type of way at the beginning when we were focusing.
All right, real quick. I mean, man, it's making me feel like this thing should actually be a little faster than 1.3 speed. So, oh man, I feel like, and being gone for a couple of weeks, there's so much I didn't talk about, and so there might be a couple of live streams to go through every last thing that I missed, guys. But so basically, what has been happening over the past few weeks, if you haven't seen it, there's been this discussion so whether or not the rhetoric should be toned down from one side or the other. And I've seen folks go online and say like kind of like what Stevie's saying here is like, no, there is no tone down because the other side is so crazy you can't like negotiate with terrorists is effectively kind of what he's saying, right? But at the same time, like first, I don't know, I feel like it's a bit ridiculous to say that because that is in and of itself the perpetuate it's late, guys. Hold on. that in and of itself perpetuates the cycle. Okay. This is what I'm trying to say here. Effectively, if you're saying we can't calm down because they're too crazy, then guess what? If something crazy comes from your side, then you make the other people feel the same way, right? Like they're too crazy. We're not calming down. Okay. Well, we're not coming down either because you're too crazy. If no one at any point ever decides to be the bigger person, or at least makes a step towards being the bigger person, then we are unfortunately stuck in a cycle of violence. So like every single time I hear this kind of thing, like we can't tone down because they're crazy, I'm like, well, someone's got to do it. And I'll tell you what, and I'm going to put some blame on his feet too. This is where normally, you know, the leader of the free world, the president, is supposed to be a leader in that regard, right? But like the one we have right now can't even take 5 seconds to just like be the bigger person and not give in to a lot of the effery online. I'm trying to it's a YouTube live. I'm trying to keep it clean here. But all right. I mean, they're just getting started here. Let's keep it going. I'm pretty sure they're going to talk about that, and we'll get their thoughts.
Knowing, like the emphasis of your video was to highlight Charlie, and then you were trying to compare it to other things that may have happened that were similar.
Sure.
And I think that's taking attention away from, you know, the elephant in the room, which is Charlie Kirk situation, which we never had a situation like this happen ever, you know, because of the social media and the fact that everyone was able to see it. You know what I'm saying? And that makes the situation a whole lot different than anything that's happened in the past as far as a murder of this magnitude. And, you know, it seems that you were minimizing the impact of what happened to Charlie.
Okay. Yeah, go ahead.
Well, I'm gonna keep rolling out. I'll let you.
No, go for it. If you're still on this one, I just want to move from this topic.
I don't want to roll out like 10 things and have you.
Yeah. It's always better to go point by point. I think so.
Yeah, we should go one for one.
Yeah.
So, it felt like, from my end, it felt like it was a right versus left type of thing, and you know what I mean. From how you were describing it, you know, right's doing this, the left's doing this, and you're saying it's hypocritical of the right to be complaining about the same things that the left is doing, or what the right is implying that we're doing. And to me, it shouldn't be about that. It should be about, we isolate, you know, the evil, the degenerate shit that's going on, and when we try to minimize or just bring up the comparison between Charlie Kirk and everything else, it minimizes the tragedy that everyone just witnessed and like the impact it had on everyone, man. So I feel like it's deflecting from it, and it's like you know, Charlie Kirk, his tragedy was important, but other things has happened, and the right was doing the same thing. So it's kind of like, no, it is, to me, it's minimizing, you know, what happened.
Got you. So I think there's 2 points in there. One.
All right, real quick. I just want to address that point, at least as I think he's saying it. I hope I understand him. He's saying, because I think I watched Abba's original video, and he was trying to make the point more or less that like you could on one hand say like we do not condone political violence in any way, shape, or form. That's not what we want to do out here. Like people out here trying to exercise their freedom of speech should not get shot in the neck. Like it's kind of ridiculous, right? Like the whole idea of this game is that like we feel a certain way, we hop on this live stream or whatever we're doing, and we talk and we have our views, and people are supposed to either hop in the comments or in his case, get in the booth and challenge him to a debate. And that's how it's supposed to go. And we should be able to do that without, like, again, the fear of being shot in the neck, right? But I think in Abba's video, what he was saying is that we can say both that, but also not get into this place where we're like effectively trying to deify the man, right? And say like, oh, he said nothing wrong. There aren't some positions that he had taken that I thought were completely ridiculous, or you know, like just kind of like talk and speak out against his ideas still, because at the end of the day, he's just a man, and it's unfortunately what happened to that man, but that man had ideas, and every single time you have an idea or you have a thought, it can be challenged by someone on the other side or someone on your side who doesn't like the way you said it or whatever. This is kind of the game it is. But some people feel like once someone dies, you can't say anything about them, and I'm not really too sure I agree with that critique. I understand there's a way of being a little bit more, what's the right word for it? What's the right word for it? There's a way of being a little bit more tactful, right? And how you critique someone after they died. Just to keep in mind their family, friends, people who care about them, or people who are really like just more or less fans, right? Or just admirers. But still, when someone goes, this idea, especially in the current era, that you can't say something bad about somebody, I am sorry, that era is long gone. Now, you're not going to catch me out here speaking super crazy about someone in the immediate aftermath of their death, but you will catch me saying, hey, you know what? Some of these views were kind of ridiculous, and I certainly do not agree. So I think that's kind of getting you up to speed there. Let's see what Abba's thoughts are about it, and we'll take it from there.
Being the hyper focusing on right versus left, so you felt like we did that too much. And the second part is minimizing Charlie Dess's murder. Is that fair?
Yeah.
Okay, so just to go to the first point, I did have that in my notes. I think in your video at around 2-minute mark, you said that I was minimizing Charlie Kirk's murder by comparing it to other political violences or like contextualizing it in the way that I was doing. I don't think I'm minimizing it. I disagree with that characterization for a few reasons. I think it's natural when someone dies that we try to understand why. That's why people love murder mystery. That's why people, every time someone dies, they want to know who the perpetrator is. They want to know who their motivations are, because murder is generally something that we see as incredibly heinous. And so understanding what led to that is always important. When I'm not comparing, this is not the right word. What I'm doing is that I'm explaining away how our society led to this moment and this man, because he wasn't murdered in a vacuum. This wasn't a crime of passion. This was an individual who's incredibly troubled, and he decided to go out and murder somebody for their political opinions or affiliation, maybe because they had mentally ill issues, who knows. But there's a landscape, and there's a lot of things that lead up to this murder. It's always important to examine these things, because if we don't understand how we got here, then we're going to be doomed to repeat it. It's never, in my opinion, a bad thing to contextualize any world event, provided you contextualize it fully, right? Or at least you try to, because without context, then all that happened was that someone was shot. Context is everything.
Yeah, and I'm now realizing that I was jumping ahead. I was jumping ahead of his point here because I saw glimpses of this, but not the whole thing. But on his main point there, I totally agree, right? Like I think sometimes people think you're minimizing it when you're trying to ask questions about how it happened, and you're not just saying like, oh, it was tragic, and shout outs to the family and all these different things. But like it is true. Like this type of stuff doesn't happen in a vacuum. It comes from something, right? And so I think trying to understand that and put it into perspective is important. That way we understand how to avoid it. That way we understand at what point our society is and like how the culture is. It gives you a bit of a temperature check as to what's really happening. So I think I jumped ahead on what my initial explanation was for where he was going with this, because that is kind of his thought as well. But it's fine. I feel that way anyway. Let's keep it going.
Well, to that point, that makes total sense what you're saying, but to me, it didn't come across that way when you voiced that in the video. It seemed like you were trying to, highlight the divide between the right and the left, or whoever the instigators of it are. You know what I mean? Like, it didn't seem like you were trying to get to the root of the problem or how we trying to fix it. It's like, like I said before, I mean, what you're saying now, if you had voiced it that way in the video, I wouldn't have had the mindset that I have in regards to what you said. But in the video, it didn't come across to me like that at all. It felt like...
Well, right now, the pervasive narrative, and this is where it comes to the left versus right thing, the pervasive narrative that's online and that's being espoused by some of the most important people in our political, stratosphere, is that violence of a political nature is solely left-wing, okay? And I remember at about 3 minutes, 29 seconds, when Matt Walsh is talking, in your video, you said that I was interpreting what he's saying. When he's talking about good versus evil, it's time for the righteous to prevail over the forces of evil. You were saying that I was making a left versus right thing, right? But that's just not true.
Hold on, let me make a correction, because you go further on in the video, I recognize that point. I said, hold up, if Matt Walsh is doing that, highlighting the left like this, that's unfair to do so. Then I went on to saying this makes the left look bad, it makes the transgenders look bad, it makes everybody affiliated to this look bad, like guilty by association. It's not the right thing to do. It should be a good versus evil thing, right? But then I went on, because you had a couple other videos of people uttering or echoing the same sentiments as far as righteous and good and evil. But I did highlight Matt Walsh in that video specifically saying, all right, I see that he is describing the left in this manner, and that shouldn't be the move.
Right. But again, at about like 6 to 7 minutes in the video, you kind of do it again where you say that, that's how I'm interpreting a lot of this narrative of good versus evil. But it's not just Matt Walsh. Ben Shapiro said that most of the political violence today is flowing from left-wing movements and ideology. Elon Musk was on Twitter. He said the left is the party of murder. If they won't let us live in peace, then our choice is to fight or die. Alex Jones said the right-wingers are in a war during a live stream. And he said that the left has been put a bullseye on Trump, and he put a bullseye on his supporters. President Trump himself, during an interview, let's see here, let me pull up the clip, because I think it's just important to me to get the exact words that he said. On Fox and Friends, he says, we have radicals on the right as well. And he says, I'll tell you how I can send you the clip you wanted. I'm going to just read it verbatim, his quote.
I believe you, though. Bro.
I'll tell you something that's going to get me in trouble, but I couldn't care less. The radicals on the right oftentimes are radical because they don't want to see more crime. The radicals on the left are the problem. So when I'm talking about...
I'm not sure what happened with this thing here, but I mean, that is a fair point. And this is kind of where, like, this is some of the things that I've been seeing throughout this entire situation that is like driving me insane, because it's like you have some people go out there and say, let's not make it right versus left. But like literally the first thing that happened, the second Charlie Kirk was shot, like literally he didn't even drop to the ground yet, is people were already starting to make it right versus left. You had all these political leaders, you had Trump, all these guys literally immediately spinning a narrative for who the shooter was. He's like he's a trans this and all that, like whatever they were trying to do, immediately spin up a narrative to make it part of the culture war, to make it right versus left, and then saying, oh, all this type of violence comes from the left wing. And it's actually really ridiculous because like you can't on the other hand turn around and say, oh, well, like we're trying to be peaceful. It's like, well, how are you trying to be peaceful when the first thing you're doing is doubling down on the division, painting a picture and spinning a narrative that kind of pushes us towards hating one another? It's like actually ridiculous. There's a better way to do that if you're actually looking for peace and you're looking for getting rid of the divisions between us. But that's not what happened from the political leaders, especially on the right, in the wake of Kirk's death. So I think it's a fair point for him to bring that up. I'm not sure what's going on with the screen right now. I'm guessing it was blocked out as part of the video, but it's about to clear up in a few seconds, so we'll get right back to it in a second.
Right versus left. I'm not talking about someone in a vacuum or someone at home. I'm talking about the most important people in our political discourse framing most of this violence as I only left. And what you did in the video, and I did appreciate, is that when we said, if you look at the numbers, people got mad because I quoted the ADL, but there's all sorts of things from FBI statistics to different organizations who track terrorist attacks. Most of it comes from religious extremists and then right-wingers. Left-wingers at the bottom of that list, especially over the last 10 years. So I'm not trying to frame this as left versus right. That's the plate that's already been set. Since Charlie Kirk died, the right has not stopped politicizing his death. They haven't stopped using it for fuel for their attacks on the left. And so in that climate, you're asking people to not talk about left versus right, but if the left doesn't, then it just right gets to make the narrative that they're the violent ones. And it's just not true.
Well, my opinion is that both just, it's not a left and right thing. It's an evil versus good thing. You know what I mean? And that's, and then it's me watching you, so I'm expecting that to be that should be the point. You know what I mean? It's like what you're doing is adding just, fuel to the fire to what you're saying everybody else is doing. Like you're highlighting the hypocrisy of people complaining about what the left does, essentially what the right is doing the same thing. You know what I mean? But, with that, like I said, with that the Matt Walsh clip, I specified I definitely could tell he was highlighting the left. Well, all that shit is fucking wrong. And I said that in the video.
Real quick, I don't like, I always find that critique to be weird. I understand what he's trying to say. He's almost saying, oh, by you calling out the fact that they're doing that, is you actually lighting more, like adding more fuel to the fire. But like you got it's like someone has to call that out though, because like what then happens is that if no one says anything because they don't want to add to it, then everyone's like I understand at some point it seems like it's just a crazy cycle, but it's okay to call that out. Right? It's how you're calling it out. If you're doing what they're doing, then yes, you're doing exactly what they're doing and making it worse. But if you're saying, hey, what are you guys doing? You guys are just like spinning the narratives and trying to make it seem like, the left is full of a whole bunch of like murderers and thugs and people trying to take you out. And the statistics don't even bear that out. Right? Like when we talk about mass shootings and all these things, it's overwhelmingly right wing that it comes from. Right? But I mean, in this case, like, well, we'll get to that in a second. I'm thinking of something else. We'll get to that in a second. But anyway, so wrap up the point, like this idea that he's talking about, where by calling it out, you're actually contributing to it. I'm like, nah. It's like, how are you calling out? What are you saying? It's a lot more different. But okay, let's keep it going.
I said that in the video, right? I said that it's not a left versus right thing. It makes everybody look bad. We need to focus on the motherfuckers actually making things horrible for everybody, the extremists, the radicals, all that. You know what I mean? That's what my focus was. I feel like that's what the focus should be for everybody.
Yeah, and I did have that noted in some of the things that I like that you did. I did appreciate that you actually said that, because a lot of people are not saying that, or they're just avoiding the topic entirely. But you have to understand, when I'm watching this video, when I'm watching the discourse, I'm looking at things in totality. So when I'm talking about...
What video are you talking about? When you say you're watching the video, what video?
I think I was looking at a lot of the political coverage in regards to this. I've been looking at the people who are responding, everyone who's been talking about this, and how the public is talking. If you spend time online, they're not talking about this as like both sides. That's not a lot of the discourse. A lot of discourse, especially from the right, is that they're just saying essentially the left is the violent party. Go check out those comment sections. Go check out a lot of the discourse from the...
That's going to happen every time that happens. Every time someone from the left does something crazy, they're going to highlight the left. When the right does something, they're going to highlight the fucking right. It just...
Not true, by the way. Not true. Because the way this thing works is that when someone on the left does something, you have all the left political leaders get out. You get the Barack Obamas, you get the Joe Bidens, you get every single person, even including political commentators, at least most of the political commentators, they'll all step out and be like, by the way, we all disavow political violence. We don't care what side that dude was on. That wasn't right, and we do not support it. Full stop. Whereas when something happens and the person is right-wing, the right-wing leaders still come out and say he was left-wing anyway, like Trump shooter, by the way, or other characters like this. They blame the left anyway. They don't know anything about him or what happened. They just immediately go to blame the left, demonize the left, accept no accountability ever whatsoever at all, and that the cycle keeps going. This is what normally happens. It's not about like, oh, when it happens on the right, they call it out. When it happens on the left, they call it out. No, it is not an even playing field. I don't care what nobody says. It is absolutely not an even playing field. Should it be? Yes, but it's absolutely not. At least not at this point. And I'll be honest, I blame a lot of that on Trump. I'm not gonna lie, because the leader sets the tone for the discourse. Like, in the era where you had like a John McCain, I promise you, none of this stuff would have happened. not saying John McCain was like making politics exciting or whatever it was, but I'm saying like we went from an era of like, you know, there's always that clip, and this is a bit of an aside, but I'll button it up quick. There's like a clip of this old lady at a rally saying like, oh, I don't like Obama, he's this or that. I think she tried to call him a Muslim as an insult, actually, as wild as that sounds. And then you have McCain like, well, listen, I don't agree with him on some policies, and there's some things we don't agree about, but like he's a decent man, and we just have some disagreements. Let's keep it moving. Effectively. If that's the energy you putting out there, then maybe what he's talking about is what we have. But that's not what we have. Okay. And they're gonna get into the Charlie Kirk's wife's her speech later on. But that's kind of that whole rally for him, his memorial, is kind of exactly like a shining example of this. And I'll see if I can find some clips of it. I'm not sure if I have anything bookmarked, so I don't know if I'll find it, but you have her giving one of like the greatest speeches in terms of like how you deal with a situation like that in light of everything that happens and who she is. And then you have President Trump afterwards going like, well, it's great that you can forgive people, but I ain't doing that. And it's like, okay, great. Our leader here is leading a shining example. But anyways, let's keep going. I am so far off the mark right now from whatever these guys are saying. Let's get back into it.
That comes with the territory.
Right. But it should be noted that we should correct those narratives and say that these are not one-sided things. If you watched our video, we didn't say violence is only right-wing. We said there's plenty of people who've murdered people on the left, from the left. And we said that. But the dominant narrative right now is that left-wingers are the violent ones. And they don't, obviously, especially with the most recent murder, it makes sense that it's going to be the dominant narrative. But it's important to not let those lies be able to be spread. And to say, actually, guys, you're wrong. In fact, this year, there's been other people who've been killed. You said we were minimizing his death by bringing up these other murders, but those deaths are part of this discussion. The same thing that led to those people being killed is the exact same thing that led to Charlie Kirk being killed. And it's important to know that, because if we don't understand that, then all this is just going to happen again. You said it was different in your video because Charlie Kirk died on camera and nobody was supposed to see that. You remember you saying that?
Yeah.
Right. To me, I understand that the fact that he died on camera makes it much more graphic, much more in your face. But at the end of the day, murder is murder. Dying is dying. Someone is victimized.
But it's the effect that it has on society. It's not the same. In a vacuum, it's the same. But if people were able to see that video until the end of time now,
sure,
right, they're able to see that man go out the way that he did, and knowing up until this, I can't compare someone else that had the amount of influence Kirk had. You know what I mean? And to have, if he hadn't been murdered in front of everyone at once, your analogy, your comparison will be fair, man. But
okay, can I ask you something?
You can't minimize
if Kirk.
Okay, real quick, I'm going to give that point to Stevie. He's absolutely right about that. So like Alba's point about murder being murder, and like it is all like it's all terrible, and so whether or not we're contextualizing it and the effects it has, all that, I understand what he's saying. But Stevie's right though. Like having that video be like first having the person who got shot, when he got shot, how he got shot, and the fact that that video was just circulating online for everyone to see, like uncensored, basically. Yeah, no, it's a different effect. People feel it differently. People see it differently. Like, you know, we hear about the stories about like political assassinations and things like that in the past, but like we don't have a video of it. I assure you, if there was like all the craziness that transpired after some of these folks, political figures got assassinated in the past or attacked in the past, I think that these things would be even worse if we had a camera. Like seeing Kennedy get shot on camera is as crazy as it was, not only because we lost a president like to a sniper. But it's the fact that there's a video of it. Now, I'm not saying Kirk is no Kennedy, but I'm making the point that, yeah, having a video of these type of things really impacts people a lot differently than hearing about these stories via the news and not having a visual. So, yeah, I'm gonna give Stevie that point here.
Kirk was not killed on camera. If Kirk's not killed on camera, is this situation more or less tragic?
It's less tragic.
So dying on camera makes a murder worse?
No, not the murder worse, but the effect that has on the people is worse because everybody can see it.
It makes it different.
He's totally right about that. It's not about like is his family not any less affected or all these different things, but the impact it has on everyone around, like society at that point, being on camera, it's a lot worse, right? Like it doesn't even have to be someone like Charlie Kirk. Like you could think about something as crazy as like George Floyd. George Floyd. Oh man, the nighttime brain is taking over. George Floyd. The fact that like what made his whole situation crazy and the fact that it wound up leading to all these insane protests in 2020 is the fact that it was on camera. 100%. Okay. If it was not on camera and we heard about the story, it would be bad. It would sound bad, but it would not be anywhere near as impactful. So Abba is absolutely wrong on this point. If he's thinking that it's the same, I'm gonna have to give this to Stevie, even though I think generally speaking, I don't think Stevie debates pretty well. But I'm gonna give him this one though. I'm definitely gonna give him this one.
Different. It makes it different, but from a moral standpoint, it's the exact same. There's no difference in morality. It's just more shocking.
It's a different conversation. I'm talking about tragedy. Morality is the same. I'm talking about the effects it's having on society.
Yeah, but if I'm talking about other murders, I'm talking about other murders, I'm talking about the moral aspect of it. But that doesn't mean that we can't contextualize it with those other murders. You say it's not comparable, but I disagree. They died for the same reason. They died for the exact same reason.
If you had related that way, trying to bring up the similarities and how you conveyed it just now, it would make more sense. But that's not at all how you conveyed it in the video. It came from, a leftist bias type of perspective from my end that you were trying to minimize it by bringing up other similarities. You didn't bring up you didn't bring anything up about it being moral or same morally. You were just saying, to summarize it, Kirk died, everybody else died, and this happens with political violence.
Yes, because what I'm getting at is not how he died, or like in front of who that he died. What I'm focused on is why was he killed. Okay, so let me say I agree with you. Let's do a different exercise. Let's say I agree with you. These are different to a degree. So what's your point? We shouldn't contextualize his murder?
Well, in your video, it didn't feel like you were contextualizing. If I felt personally that you contextualized it, trying to get to the root of a problem, then we wouldn't be here today. But I felt like your intent was to minimize Kirk's death by bringing up all these things that happened.
I would argue that.
I thought, guys, my mistake. I'm actually very much realizing that the first thing I should have done before we started watching this debate is I should have played this video. It was like 10 minutes long. I could have played it first and kept it going from there. I figured that they would talk about the things in the video so that we'd be able to get it, and they are. But I also realized as a point of context, it would have helped to play it on the stream first. So my bad. I've been away for a while, and so I'm a little rusty as in terms of the order of operations in which we're going to do these things. So please bear with me. Let's just follow along with the ideas, and hopefully we'll be okay. But let me know if, like, at the end you want to see it to kind of make it make sense. But I feel like by the end of this debate, everything that was said will be explained. So, all right, let's keep it going.
You are minimizing his death by not contextualizing it properly. If you don't talk about why something happened and how we got here, then all you're doing is just describing a tragedy.
I'm not talking about why. I'm just focused on your video.
Yes, but if you're going to counter my narrative and say that I'm wrong for contextualizing it the way that I did, or you don't like the way I contextualized it.
You're saying you're contextualizing it now. When I watched it, I didn't think you were contextualizing it. I thought that you were minimizing it.
That's fair. I disagree with that. I think I talked about how we got here. I definitely said that in the video. I talked about the fact that there's been a string of political violence over the last 10 years and that this is not a shocking outcome. Kirk being assassinated is not the craziest thing. There's a reason why he had security. There's a reason why I think he was wearing a bulletproof vest. There's been threats on these people. So we have to take that into consideration, understand that this is not something that happened that is out of this world. Even Kirk himself realizes this is a possibility. There's a reason why everyone who does these...
I get your point, but that's not at all my argument, bro.
But that's what I was talking about. That's what I was talking about in that video, for sure.
Well, I didn't receive that on mine. If I felt like you were contextualizing it, then, we're on the same wave as far as, this is what happens when, politics get off the rails. But in the video, like I said, I thought that you were just minimizing it by comparing it to everything else. I didn't feel like there was any contextualizing there. So just got to agree to disagree.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I'll be honest. When I saw Abba's video here, I took it as contextualizing, and I understand how if you're probably a big fan of Charlie, that most things that could be said outside of like that wasn't okay, it might make you feel that way. But because like Abba wasn't like, it's not like I'm saying, like, he wasn't nice about it. He was saying, like, that's terrible, but here are some of the things that happened. So I can understand how it could seem like he's minimizing it, but I will say, like, kind of putting it in context, because these things don't happen in a vacuum, is what I perceived it to be as well. But you know what? It's one of those things. Everyone kind of views things how they do through their own separate lens. So it is what it is.
I watched the video probably 3 more times because, you know, we're having this conversation today, man. And I didn't get it all that you were contextualizing.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't say that. I was saying those words exactly, contextualizing it, but I think that is what I was doing. But again, we could agree to disagree. So those were, I think, your first 2 disagreements that you had with me. Yeah, you can definitely let me know some other ones that you have for sure.
And I mean, I just get to the meat and the potatoes now, man, because do you feel like you manufactured a narrative on Kirk by showing those snips of him in your video?
Yeah, okay, we can address that because I did have that in my notes as well. I think around like the 20-minute mark, you said I took him out of context, right?
Not even take him out of context. You put your context on it because we let it play. I put the additional clips on it.
Okay, so just for the viewer, there's a clip that we played, maybe a 15 seconds of Kirk on a Jubilee panel. He's talking to somebody. This is a panel about Christians versus, or is it right-wingers versus lefties? I don't remember what it was.
I don't know, but it was about abortion.
Okay, it was about abortion, right?
Well,
And Kirk is a very Christian, self-proclaimed Christian. You know, everybody knows this about him. So in that clip, the woman is asking him a hypothetical where he says, if your 10-year-old daughter was raped, okay, would you force her to keep the child? Is that a fair assessment of the clip?
Yeah.
And then Kirk says yes.
You said yes. The baby or my girl will have the.
Okay.
I think I'm gonna just find this part of the video real quick, just so you guys could see it, because I think it would help to contextualize what it is that he's saying. Oh man, you guys was actually fighting over this. Let me see if I could just find it, because I think it would make sense for you to be able to see that and then know like, all right, this is what they're talking about here, rather than see it. So I think that video is here.
Charlie Kirk. We didn't. We're what, 7 days after?
7 days.
We're gonna take a little detour, guys. We'll be right back. I just want to find this clip that he's talking about, because I mean, really, I should have just watched this first. But there's a particular clip in here that they kind of spliced in, and I hope I could find it. But it is, yeah, it's actually right here. It is that part in which, so this is the part in which the debate they're talking about taking things out of context. And this is the part in their video where they kind of spliced in some pieces from like a Jubilee discussion. And that's some of the major critiques people have. They're like, he said some things, but like y'all didn't include the context. So we're going to play that part here. I'm actually taking their clip out of context to show the other clip out of context. So we're going all out of context here. And we're just so you guys can get it. Then we'll go back to the debate and see what it is they're talking about from that piece. So let's keep it going.
A different perspective. I certainly don't share the one where he's some good. I've heard he said them very publicly, and people cancel folks for that. I'm not with that at all. Okay, the guy did say some very. Everybody does this kind of hyperbolic. If people don't like Charlie Kirk and want to acknowledge the fact that he had disgusting views, that's their right. And people try to cancel folks for that. I'm not with that at all. Okay, the guy did say some very disgusting things throughout his life. He said them very publicly, and people whitewashing him. I've heard people call him a good Christian boy. Maybe from your perspective, it's okay for people to have a different perspective. I certainly don't share the one where he's some good. I've heard him say some really so that's my personal opinion.
You had a daughter and she was 10 and she got raped. And she was going to give birth and she would, and she was going to give birth and she was going to live. Would you want her to go through that and carry her baby?
That's awfully graphic.
It's but it's a real life scenario that happens to many people.
The answer is yes, the baby would be delivered.
Oh, okay, great. So
Do you think that?
Okay. Yeah, all right. I actually didn't see the rest of that Jubilee video, I'm not gonna lie. So I don't know what she said after that, but I will say that sounds terrible, but I think that was him sounding on business. Sorry, him standing on business. And we can think I know I do. I think that's a personal, I think that's a ridiculous view, but he is being consistent with his view in that case. Not one that I appreciate, not one that I like, but we can look at that and say, wow, well, I think that was pretty trash. And I think that's what Abba was getting at before that point. So now let's go back to the debate where they're talking about that clip in that clip specifically, and let's pick it up from where we left off. Again, I think I should have just played this thing, and I might just do it for certain parts just so that we have the context together. But let's keep going.
Okay, and then you said that we were kind of dishonest with how we did that we clipped him out of context, and then we put our own context, right?
No, I'm not saying you put your own context. You didn't put the entire context.
Okay.
Like you said, you led into it by saying, you know, you said, I think I'm not gonna speak. I'm gonna recite you verbatim, but it was essentially, you know, I think that Kirk has said some disgusting things as well.
Yes,
and
I played that clip.
Videos.
Yeah, so let's just talk about that first clip, because I remember you taking that first clip and being really shocked. I think, let me just see here, because I did have that in my notes here. Oh yeah, you said that.
First, let me just fully address that, by the way, because I don't think I did here. I mean, listen, when we have the pro-life discussion, the pro-life versus pro-choice discussion, like it's always going to be uncomfortable. And I think when you're standing on business on either side, there's going to be some things that you would have to logically kind of stick with if you're going to be fully with the position, right? And so in his case, he's basically saying, I am pro-life no matter what, no matter the circumstance. The baby is not involved in whatever like the baby is not involved in however they got there. It is what it is. Now, him saying the baby would be delivered after she pretty much laid out that crazy scenario, I'm not gonna lie, that's pretty wild, right? But again, that's him being consistent. Now, just because he died doesn't mean that you don't have the right to go out here and say, well, I think that's kind of crazy, right? So I think that's the point that we're kind of getting at here, or he's getting at here, where it's just like someone dies and all of a sudden it's like, I mean, dude has thousands of hours of content online saying all different types of things. Just because he dies doesn't mean we can't critique him anymore. You know what I mean? Like, so, you know. All right, let's keep it going.
You said that was really surprising that you were shocked coming from me and called me the king of receipts.
Yeah.
But yes, so that is
I rely, but I know when you giving somebody shit, you gonna have.
Okay, so how do you feel I took that clip out of context?
Because when I see that it's trying to paint Kirk as a monster because he's going to force his 10-year-old daughter to have a child.
Right, but as somebody who's anti-abortion, that's his stance. He will force his daughter to have the child because he feels as though life is precious or whatever it is. And
also, like, he's saying he took him out of context, and I understand it's clipped, but like, what context are you going to give that makes that clip sound okay? That's kind of the question I have. Like, what? Like, you tell me, what is the context which makes that, like, what he said sound good? I don't think you're going to find one. I think the only thing you can say is, yeah, that's his view. He's standing on business. Like, he believes no matter what happens, the baby should be delivered. But that's all you can say. If people think that is a trash position, then like you have to own that. And I think I'm pretty sure he owned that at that point. Like he knows what she was trying to do when she brought it up to him. He knows he's on camera. They're in the middle of a Jubilee video, which got like millions of views. He was standing on business. He knew what he was doing. So like, I don't understand how you can then try to defend him and be like, oh, well, like you took it out of context when that was his position. His position was to stand on business. That's what he was doing at the time, right? So like there is no context with it that would make that sound better. And I don't think he wanted there to be. That was the point, right? I don't know. It's wild when people say that. Oh man, I get these things all over the place. My comments here. Shout out to Joran. I know someone who that situation happened to. Their Christian values made them have the child. Yeah, I mean, listen. People have different views and different perspective on these things, and how they deal with it is something that they have to be able to live with at the end of the day, right? Some people would get in a situation like that and they're just like, no, I am not having that baby, not under these circumstances. It's not something I could do. And some people, they're just like, well, listen, I believe, they're religious. They believe that if they have a baby, however the baby got there, it is a gift from their creator, and they're ultimately going to have that baby no matter what, right? And so to each his own. But like, however you feel about it, when you put that view out there, understand some people are going to be with you and some people are going to be against you. And it doesn't matter what happens to you in life. If that view's out there, there will be critique about it. So it's wild, and it ain't a great situation to be in. I'll say that much. But yeah, let's man. It's so hard to kind of come back to that and act like you're just going to roll and everything's okay, right? Tragic situation. But all right, guys, let's try to keep let's keep it going here. Let's get back on track here.
Yeah.
You know, he sees the fetus as a life, so he's like, my daughter will have that baby. That's his take.
Yeah, but if you let the rest of the video play, I mean, it's subjective. Everybody's going to feel differently watching that. But if you just have that short video, it makes it seem like he's a monster. I don't care. Anti-abortion, she having a baby. You know, it could be for anything, because my way or the highway or whatever the case may be, bro. Everybody's not informed on Kirk and his reasonings why. And I think that you let the video play and he gives you his reasonings why, people would understand it. They may not agree with it, but they'll understand it, and it'll take a blow away from how they're initially feeling about him being a monster.
Well, they'll see him still as a monster, because no matter how much you explain it from a religious standpoint.
But that's your opinion.
But that was my whole point. Do you remember what the greater point of that whole section was? That section was about the fact that some people view him as a monster, including me. I don't like the guy. I didn't think his politics were good. That's my personal opinion. I think I'm free to say that. And I played clips that, to me, showcase his stances on things that I just don't agree with and I think are disgusting. Forcing your 10-year-old daughter to have a baby, okay, that after she was great, okay? You could say it's great for religious reasons. You could give whatever justification you want. There's nothing in there that took him out of context. His stance was...
because if you having that short snippet, people are not going to know why he's doing it. They're just going to know he's doing it. If he gives justification of why, and he gave very clear reasons of why...
Here's the part I'm going to disagree with him on that. I feel like... Okay, I'll give him a little bit of credit. If you don't understand that he said that from a religious context, then sure, him explaining a little bit more to say, hey, he's a strong Christian, and this is him, like, again, doubling down on his beliefs. Okay, that, like, if you didn't know that about him already, then like that would explain that. But I feel like most people who see that would know that. Not saying, like, there's two thoughts. Number one, you know who Charlie Kirk is, and so you would know that. And if you don't know who Charlie Kirk is, and you hear that position, a lot of people can pretty much assume that's where he's coming from, because there isn't really going to be another reason why someone else would take that stance. Honestly, the only other reasons that exist are even worse, right? It would be like outside of a deeply held religious belief, what else would make you take that position, right? So like, I understand what he's trying to say, but like I'm not buying it. I'm not buying it.
That's going to make some people look at it different. You're putting this, you know what I mean? Like, it's like showing a video of somebody shooting somebody in the head, but just randomly. But you
okay,
they like killed my mom, then it makes sense.
No, because the people who are following this, or people who are tuning into this stuff, know that Charlie is a political speaker who's incredibly Christian. So
you make that assumption, though, bro. Like, you make that assumption because now, since Kirk has died, there are so many people that are just now learning about Kirk. There's so many people that didn't know before.
That is true. They might not know who Kirk is, but like I was saying, if you hear that position, unless you've been living under a rock, you can pretty much guess that he was a Christian. Even if you don't know who he is and you don't know about some of his Christian views and how he's spoken about it, if you hear that view, you can pretty much assume that's why, right? So I get what he's trying to say, but like, it doesn't really transform too much of it, right? So, all right, let's keep it going.
So many people that didn't know before. You put that narrative out.
Can I ask you?
This is a big reason why so many people don't like Kirk, because they get some of these short reels taken out of context.
But they're not out of context. It's not out of context.
It is not,
no, it's not. It's not, Stevie. If someone says, I'm anti-abortion, I'm a Christian, we know why you don't want an abortion to happen.
In that clip you put, he didn't say he was Christian, though. She just gave an example, and he said, no, she can have a baby. He didn't say he was Christian.
This guy was all over the world, all over the news, and he was constantly... No, I'm not making an assumption. Everybody who saw that clip of him getting murdered knew he was a political speaker who's Christian. There's not a person who didn't see that clip, who didn't see the news reports, who didn't know what he was. You're acting like I took an obscure person.
That's not true. That's not true. You can't speak to everybody in the world, dog.
That's not out of context, boss. That's not out of context.
Because I talk to people now that had no idea who the fuck Kirk was. Now they see him on his timeline going, and they don't know who the fuck he is. That's false, bro.
Okay, it is true that not everyone's gonna know who this guy was. That's very true. Like, a lot of people are not gonna know. Like, a lot of people don't know everybody, right? So that, like, from that perspective, he's right. But if we're talking about the view that he's talking about, I feel like more people know the view rather than the person. More people understand the pro-life position versus like who Charlie Kirk is. And so when you hear somebody say a pro-life position, like most of the time, you kind of understand where it's coming from. So I get what he's trying to say, and I give him a little bit of points, but like, still, generally speaking, when you hear someone say that, like, you kind of know where they're coming from. So it's not out of context if he said, I'm going to double down and stand on business. And you can feel like it made him look bad, but understand that even if you then said, oh, and I'm saying this because I'm a Christian, if people thought you looked bad already, they're still going to think you look bad. It's not going to change it. Because again, when people hear the position, they already know where it's coming from. So pretty much their feelings are pre-baked in, right? they either share your view and they're like, it sounds bad, but like, I feel you. They don't share your view. They're like, it sounds bad and I think it is bad. Or they're like pretty much indifferent. But like, when it comes to that type of stuff, most people aren't indifferent. There's usually a hard stance on it. But nonetheless, like, I mean, I think we can call it for what it is, right?
He has a very standard cookie cutter Christian view on it. There's nothing.
Regardless, you're making the assumption that people know, dog, and that's a dangerous game. You got to give them.
That's not an assumption. That's not an assumption, boss. I'm sorry. Anybody who's following this knows he's a Christian political speaker. I'm sorry, but I'm just not buying that. In fact, everyone's been introducing him as such, so we know why he does not like abortion. I don't need to see 5 minutes.
You know, and a lot of people do know. Everybody doesn't know, dog. And you got to be fair and give the reason why. You got to get the justification why. You just say he's doing this. Like, oh, he's a motherfucker because he's gonna force a 10-year-old to have a fucking daughter. But if you go let the shit play and he gives the fucking girl the business of why he made her look stupid. To me,
but that's because you're probably anti-abortion. Am I right?
No, I don't know. I could care less. I respect his stance. I'm not pro. I'm not anti. I respect his stance. I don't agree with it, of course, but I respect it because he's standing on 10.
Okay. But my point still 100% stands. At the end of the day, if you were going to force a 10-year-old to have a baby because you believe abortion is wrong, it's okay for people to say you're a disgusting person, and other people can agree with your stance and say you're cool. My entire point was
my argument was you took about the context. People can say what they want to say, but okay. About the context, you're manufacturing a narrative.
I'm not manufacturing a narrative. The narrative was very clear. He's a Christian man. He's against abortion. Super basic.
You didn't have Christian in that clip, though.
I didn't have to because everyone knows who he is. But
everybody does not know. Look.
Okay, we'll agree to disagree. We'll agree to disagree. But I think that's not taking someone out of context. If someone says I'm a Muslim, if someone says I'm a Muslim and I'm a no. I think you're reaching. I think you're definitely reaching. But it's okay.
How am I reaching?
You're reaching.
How am I reaching?
He's the most viral person right now.
Narrative, bro. The girl, he said I'm going to force a 10-year-old to have a fucking baby.
No.
Everybody going to see. There's no more context. You didn't give a motherfucker the opportunity to explain why.
No. He's the most viral person in the world. People know he's a political commentator. They know he's Christian. I'm not buying that, but we'll agree to disagree. That's not taking someone out of context. If you're not an unknown person, we know where you're standing. We know what you're there for. But we'll agree to disagree. This is another point you made, and this is one I thought was crazy. You played the other clips of Kirk. You kind of said there's nothing bad about this when he said he wanted Biden to be executed or given the death penalty.
All right, let me see if the other video has these clips. I haven't seen the other video in a while, so I'm gonna just try to play it so that we can kind of let me see if this is just a compilation of clips. Okay, it's a compilation of clips. All right, so we're gonna watch this compilation of clips real quick. That was on Abba's original video, just so that we can get caught up. Okay, and we can understand what they're arguing about and fighting about here right now. Because, we can say that there's probably some things that are taken out of context. Because when you clip things, you're clipping them, and sometimes you can include the full context. Sometimes you clip them with the intention of adding your context onto it. That is all fair, and I think that's a reasonable critique. So I'm going to clip it by not showing their whole video and clip only the part where they're showing clips of Charlie Kirk. Okay, so in the spirit of clipping, all right, we're going to do that. We're going to watch this part, and then we'll go back to where they're debating, because I think this bit of context would really, really help. Okay, let's go back to right here. All right, let's check it out.
You had a daughter and she was 10 and she got raped. And she was going to give birth and she would, no, wait. Oh, and she was going to give birth and she was going to live. Would you want her to go through that and carry her baby?
That's awfully graphic.
But it's a real life scenario that happens to many people.
The answer is yes, the baby would be delivered.
Oh, okay, great. So
do you think that there should be free school lunch for all children?
No.
Why?
Of course not. Because parents should feed their kids, not the government.
What if they can't?
Go get a job.
A child?
The parents should go get the job.
Yeah.
This is important. First of all, this is really...
You want children to eat?
Of course I do. Show me a single child in America going hungry. Doesn't exist. Number two, we have churches, we have food shelters, we have billions, and it does not exist. We have a child obesity problem, not a child starvation problem in this country.
I mean, Joe Biden is a bumbling, dementia-filled Alzheimer's, corrupt.
Real quick, I think they're actually going to get into this as well. There's a problem with food insecurity, with malnourishment in America. It's not necessarily like feed the kids type stuff. It's more like kids aren't getting the right food. They're not getting enough food. They're not getting a good nutrition. They're not getting good balanced diets. This type of thing. I'm going to find some stats for it. I'm pretty sure they're going to talk about it. And there is that problem that exists. So I mean, Charlie was wrong about that in that regard, but we'll get to that in a second.
Tyrant who should honestly be put in prison and or given the death penalty for his crimes against America.
Hold on, what? Hold on. Wait, hold on. What was he saying? Hold on, what was that?
Biden is a bumbling...
Wait.
We have a child obesity problem, not a child starvation problem in this country.
I mean, Joe Biden is a bumbling, dementia-filled Alzheimer's, corrupt tyrant who should honestly be put in prison and or given the death penalty for his crimes against America.
Okay, I'm just like, that is actually a wild comment, and this is kind of like one of those things, right? Like the man died here, and you're trying to afford him some grace. But at the same time, this is kind of like what we're saying, where it was just like, these are the type of things that people would say about like Joe Biden and Barack Obama. And like, that man barely said anything. Right. And it'd be like, it's the same. It's the same exact thing coming from the left and the right. And it's like, dog, we talking about Joe Biden right now? Like, are you serious? Like, oh man, like that is just wild. All right, let's finish the compilation. We'll get back to the debate. That was a wild comment.
I know we don't have a lot of time. There's so many good speakers tonight. This is a battle between good and evil. I wish we could compromise, but you can't compromise with evil. You can't compromise with evil.
I think the DOJ should immediately move to unseal all the Epstein documents in the Southern District of New York.
Yeah.
I think every file should be released to the public the same way as the JFK files.
Charlie Kirk got one call from the president, and this was his response.
Honestly, I'm done talking about Epstein for the time being. I'm going to trust my friends in the administration. I'm going to trust my friends in the government to do what needs to be done, solve it, balls in their hands.
People in this day and age cannot.
Okay. All right. Is that the rest of the clips? That's the rest of the clips. Okay, we're gonna end it there. This, I mean, I'm not gonna lie. Watching this video makes me feel like I should have done some more regular videos instead of not doing anything for the past 2 weeks in terms of content. There was a lot to talk about here. All right, let's get back to the discussion. Now that we watched a bit of that, clip montage. This is where they're in the middle of fighting. All right, so we just took a bit of an aside. We're going to jump back in real quick. We're going to pick up where we left off, all right? Let's see, 23:54. Oh, man, I've been doing a lot of yapping. Okay. All right.
Penalty. You don't think that people should hate somebody like that, or some people might hate somebody?
Let's bring it back just a few seconds, because I don't even know what they're talking about right now.
This is another point you made, and this is one I thought was crazy. You played the other clips of Kirk. You kind of said there's nothing bad about this when he said he wanted Biden to be executed or given the death penalty.
Okay.
You don't think that people should hate somebody like that, or some people might hate somebody for that reason? For saying violent things like that?
Yeah, that's their opinion.
Another point that you made, I played a second clip, and this is probably one of the wilder clips. A young man goes up to Charlie Kirk during that debate, and he says to him, hey, what do you think about school lunches for kids? And Charlie laughs him. He says, there's no starvation in America. We have an obesity problem. Nobody here is going without food. And then you agreed with him. You said there's no starvation in America. Go get food stamps. You can get food at churches. There's no reason to starve. Do you remember that?
Yeah, there's no reason to starve in America. It's like 1% of households have like technically a hunger issue, bro, but people are not starving to death in America, bro. Motherfuckers are fat as hell.
Okay.
It's a fact.
And see, this is the problem I have with like people who are pro-life, and not you specifically, but people like Charlie Kirk. They're so obsessed with keeping fetuses alive, they pretend it's like this big virtue. And then when a child is born, they're like, fuck you, your parents take care of you. It's actually probably one of the most hypocritical, and this is why I think Charlie Kirk is probably a shitty person to me, is that he spent all this time being anti-abortion, but when it comes to every government initiative that's meant to protect kids and keep them good, he was always against it. And to me, it's like, what's...
And I agree with that sentiment as well. Like it's fine to say I believe that kids and families need to be taken care of by their families and things like that. But like also understand that the ideal scenario is not always the scenario. And like the cracks of our society where like strong communities, strong families and these things don't necessarily do a good job at like lifting up people. I think like the cracks and where these people who fall through for not having tight-knit communities, families, all these things, that's where I feel like the government should step in and to at least ensure they have the basics in their life, right? Like that's the view I personally have as well. And I definitely agree with that. It's like, I feel very similarly where it's like you have a lot of the folks who are pro-life and I'm like, it's fine to be pro-life, but like be pro-life throughout life. You know what I mean? Not just for like bringing a baby to term, but like actually when the person's born, Let's try to foster a society where the least among us are like we are the richest country in the world. We can have a better baseline for everybody, right? Like, I think that would be okay. I feel like that's possible. And it's not like, I mean, other countries in some areas do that stuff better than us. And so I feel like it's okay to say that's what we strive for. And I just don't feel that's typically a position that a person like Charlie would have taken. But yeah, I mean, I agree with Alba on this point. Let's keep it going.
What's the fucking point of keeping this fetus alive if when it comes out, you're like, yo, fuck you, kid. And that's what he did. He said that guy was...
Hold on, let me bring it back a little bit. Let me bring it back a little bit. I was just like, wait, what? Hold on.
This is the problem I have with like people who are pro-life, and not you specifically, but people like Charlie Kirk. They're so obsessed with keeping fetuses alive, they pretend it's like this big virtue. And then when a child is born, they're like, fuck you, your parents take care of you. It's actually probably one of the most hypocritical, and this is why I think Charlie Kirk is probably a shitty person to me, is that he spent all this time being anti-abortion, but when it comes to every government initiative that's meant to protect kids and keep them good, he was always against it. And to me, it's like, what's the fucking point of keeping this fetus alive if when it comes out, you're like, yo, fuck you, kid. And that's what he did. He said that guy was...
He said, fuck you, kid?
No, he didn't, but he might as well have when he's constantly championing everything that's anti-public sector, or sorry, government involved taking care of kids. Like even you saying there's no starvation is like so disingenuous. If you just Google it, there's like so many kids today here in America. You could look it up, the statistics, that have malnutrition, that have food scarcity, that have all these problems. It stunts their growth. It fucks them up in terms of their academic success. Yeah. And for you guys to sit there and think that food lunches for kids is a crazy idea and parents should take care of them. Some parents are dog shit. Some parents don't take care of their kids. And so that's why these school lunches happen, so that kids who go to school get a meal. But people like Charlie Kirk, and then you did the same thing, or like, oh, the parents take care of it. That's fucking stupid. And I'm like, do you guys even Google this stuff? Do you guys even look into it? But you speak confidently against this stuff that's hurting hundreds and thousands of kids. And I'm like, I don't get it.
Yeah, I like, thank you for that rant, Abba. That was pretty good. But yeah, I mean, listen, like, I wholeheartedly agree with him on that. And that's how I feel about it as well. Like, again, ideally, the parents would step in and you'd be decent parents and you'd do what you have to do to send your kid into school and make sure that they're okay. But like, not all parents are good parents. I'm sorry. Like not all parents, and sometimes it's not even parents being good parents. Sometimes parents just don't they may be in a position where they don't have the time to do all these things for their kids. So when their kids get sent in, if they're not eating the right meals or they're not getting the right nutrition, then they're affected throughout the day. They may be sleepy, an inability to process the information that they're getting in school. The test scores go down, and it is downstream effect from there, right? So this idea that it is evil for the government to do anything for families and for people where, there's some slack, I think it's a bit ridiculous. I think again, ideally the families do this, but having some baseline where the government steps in, where the families aren't doing it, personally, I think it's fine. And I kind of agree with Alba on this point.
I'll ask you a question.
Also, he's Canadian, so... He's Canadian, so it's a little different over there. But nonetheless, that is an ally that is a close ally to us on our northern border there, and we have a lot of crossover with the Canadians. Let's put it up there. But yeah.
Which one is higher, the amount of abortions in America or the amount of starving children in America?
The amount of starving kids in America.
Oh, that's cap.
That's cap? Did you Google it? Did you Google it?
I don't need to Google it.
You don't need facts. But you know what? Facts don't care about how you feel about it. I need you to Google it.
Okay.
Go Google.
Somebody Google it in the chat.
Okay.
But
all right. All right. You see that? Let's just hear that part real quick. And I actually, right before, because this is one of the clips I saw, I did Google it, and it's actually pretty wild.
The amount of starving children in America.
The amount of starving kids in America.
Oh, that's cap.
That's cap? Did you Google it? Did you Google this stuff? You guys even look
into
it? But
the question one more time.
Against this stuff that's hurting hundreds and thousands of kids. And I'm like, I don't get it.
I'll ask you a question. Which one is higher, the amount of abortions in America or the amount of starving children in America?
The amount of starving kids in America.
Oh, that's cap.
All right. So immediately you kind of see where his, you see where his leanings are, right? He's going. Alba asked him earlier, are you pro-life or are you pro-choice or where are you on this, right? And typically he's right-leaning. So I don't know where he is in that regard, and it's perfectly fine. It doesn't matter where he's leaning. But this choice of an argument kind of it kind of speaks to the arguments he's more so convinced by, right? And the narratives that more so drive his thought process. So he's already starting to think like, oh, like there's probably more abortions than malnourished or malnourished children in the country. And so he asked them point blank, what do you think there's more of? And he's just like, oh, like easily the children. And then he says that's cap. And he doesn't even want to Google it or check because now his feelings are in the way of facts, right? Shout out to Ben Shapiro. But I actually looked this one up earlier. Give me 1 second. Let me see if I can find it here. I actually looked this one up earlier, and it's pretty much this hilarious thing. I found it right here. 1 second. We're gonna talk to my good friend Gemini. Actually, had another tab. So I said, what are the number in terms of kids in America who are underfed or malnourished versus abortion rates? So I kind of put it in a way that the AI could try to get back to me here, and and the number of food insecure children, recent estimates from 2023 indicate that nearly 14 million children in the United States live in insecure households. This is often cited at about 1 in 5 children in the U.S. Households with very low food insecurity, severe form, blah, 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 blah. So, okay, so we have our number here, all right, about 14 million. Now, we can follow this source. This is from the NEKC Foundation. You can click into that. I'll click into it in a second. We can say whether or not you believe that source or whatever it might be, but that's the number we have there, right? Then we have this Gut My Machers Institute from 2020 reported about 930,000 abortions. Okay, so as of 2024, we're at about 1.14 million. So whether or not you feel that's a lot or not, 14 million is more than 1.14. So thank you for coming to my TED Talk. Okay, so I sometimes I think these kind of exercises are important though, because I feel like not seeing these type of numbers help drive certain narratives, and they make people feel a certain way. Like, you see how he immediately was just like, oh, that's cap, I don't believe it, I'm not even gonna look, because these type of things happen. Like I actually, and I'm gonna take a bit of an aside here, but this is kind of like the same situation if you ask folks about like trans stuff. There is this like feeling in the world that people are just like I've seen this clip with Matt Walsh before on Joe Rogan, and it was the most hilarious thing ever, because he basically went on Joe Rogan, and Joe Rogan asked him, I forgot directly what he asked him, but something along the lines of like, well, how much people do you think are transitioning or doing any of these things throughout the course of the year? And he was said like millions, right? And then Jamie pulled up the numbers, and it wound up being like a couple of thousand over the course of like 5 years or something in the whole country, right? It was like some crazy number like that. And I say that because it lets you know the scale, because a guy like Walsh made it his mission to talk about this issue like it was like the most pressing thing in the world. And when you see numbers, you then kind of understand the scale to which these things are a problem. Now, I'm not saying if you're pro-life and you see 1.14 million abortions a year, like that might be a lot. Like I get it too. But also, on the other hand, if you're just like, we have to try to find a way to get the kids who are born and the kids who are here in a position where that they are fed properly, they have the proper nutrition and all these different things, and you see this number at like 14 million, it's like, well, that's a problem too. What can we do about that? And the focus and what you choose to pay attention to and what fuels you and drives you at that point kind of speaks to where your political leanings lie ultimately. So, all right, wanted to take that detour. We will get back into the discussion. I've been doing a lot of yapping here. I understand that, guys. Oh man, we're only halfway in. Hoping we can get through it. All right, let's go. Let's keep it going.
That's cap. Did you Google it? Did you Google it?
I don't need to Google it.
You don't need facts. But you know what? Facts don't care about how you feel about it. I need you to Google it.
Okay.
Go Google. Go.
Somebody Google it in the chat.
Okay.
But I'm not. You.
By the way, he said someone Google it in the chat. He never checked that chat. So That just goes to show you, like, yeah, that wasn't gonna happen. Let's keep it going.
Figure out the best way to articulate this, because you have this anger towards Kirk and me and whomever else because we don't support government, not even support government assistance. We're saying the parents should do it, but in the reality of the problem, bro, there's so many different ways that people can eat outside of their parents. There's, bro, food stamps, churches, charities, bro. Like, there's no reason for somebody to starve.
So do you want a 7-year-old or 8-year-old to go to get food stamps or go to church?
Yeah, like, what is he saying?
What if the parent doesn't want to go? What if their parent doesn't want to go?
You saw in the video I said it, bro. I'll be jealous when I see the amount of money these people have on food stamps, bro. They be running these EBTs up $400, $500, $600, bro. Like, there's no excuse for somebody to be broke or to be hungry, unless they got, like, they're picky, they're bougie about what the fuck they want to put in their body, dog. But beggars can't be choosers, bro. Like, you can't have no filet mignon when you can't afford it, dog.
Okay,
we live in a capitalistic country, dog. It is what it is.
Let's take 2 steps back. All right, let's take 2 steps back. Do you agree with there's a lot of bad parents out there?
Absolutely.
Do you know that hold on. Do you agree that there's a lot of parents who neglect those children?
Yeah.
Okay, so do you think that those kids should suffer because they have bad parents?
No.
Okay,
I don't think they should, but bad shit happens.
So wait, you're just gonna let kids suffer when the?
No, I'm not gonna let them, bro, because there's other avenues. Like, if they're going to school, this is a hypothetical.
Well, no, hold on. What did you say? If they're going to school, what? If they're going to school, they can get a free lunch there?
If they're going to school, I'm assuming that teachers are aware. They can see someone losing weight.
But that's what the program's for, Stevie. That's what I'm saying. The program is meant to give kids lunches at school.
No, that's not where I'm going with it. I'm talking about, like, teachers making calls to get, the correct parties involved to address a child, to find a potential food for them, so they can take advantage of the surplus of food that is available for people in these situations. Like, the homeless don't go hungry, bro. They can go get a meal if they want to get a meal.
You're comparing children to homeless.
Yeah, this is this is so wild right now. Like, does this guy not understand that kids don't, like, kids at certain ages can't do this stuff? Like, he's just like, oh, like, there should be no reason why you go hungry. It's like, okay, so, like, what do you expect the kids to do? You want them to go to the food shelters, or what is he saying here? I don't quite understand what he's getting at. He's saying that, like, they can do things, but when you try to pin them down specifically who does what to get them help, he doesn't really have an answer. He's like, well, right? Oh, like, the teacher can call and get the proper people involved. Okay, who's the teacher calling? He'd probably say the parents who neglected the child in the first place. Like, what are we talking about? Like, this makes no, like, it's just like, oh man. All right, let's keep it going.
Like, what are we talking about? See, I want y'all to just think about it. So, there's shitty parents out there, okay? And you want teachers to call the shitty parents to be like, hey, be better parents. Or you want to call child services? You want to call child services? You want to put them in foster care?
It may be better than having the shitty ass parents.
Have you looked at the foster care, Stevie? Have you Googled foster care?
But you're describing these parents as ain't shit, bro. Like, it is bad shit happens.
I know. I cover them every day. There's a lot of ain't shit parents. There's a lot of ain't shit. You cover them. How many videos have you done about baby?
Real quick, respect to Abba just for a second. I need you guys to understand. Every single video these dudes post on YouTube gets like the floor on their videos is like 300K. They post like a video a day. These dudes are probably making like between like 25 and 50K a month off of their YouTube channel. And that's just off of like ads, right? Okay. And they have all these like other things like these what do you call it? These sponsorships and stuff like that in the video. And shout out to Abba, like, dude is making all this money and he will never like upgrade his camera. like what is up with this? like what is up with this, man? Like, oh man, like, I respect the game. I respect the game. Refuses to just get an updated camera or something. I mean, they got a decent one during their regular videos, but what is this? What is this? All right, let's keep it going.
Mamas, how many videos have you done about baby mamas and dog shit parents? If I go to your channel right now, I'll find dozens, hundreds of videos. So you want teachers to call those parents and be like, hey, feed your kids. You're saying I'm telling teachers to call the parents. I never said that. I said they can call parties that do this for a living to find children the resources that they need. Like, teachers do this all the time. They'll see a child that may be neglected and they'll make the calls or alert people to, intervene. Right, but I mean, I feel like we're pushing it far out to like specifics of it, bro. At the end of the day, my point of view on it is that it's, abortion is a far larger problem than starving children. Children don't starve in America. They may be hungry, but they don't starve. This isn't fucking
People, it's not a famine going on. People are not dying because
no, they're not dying. But do you understand?
Like hypertension, obesity. There's much more obese kids than there are hungry kids, bro. You know what I'm saying? Like, and the world's not perfect, dog. It's not utopia, bro. So it's like I get, and then I'm a capitalist, dog. I'm not in support of the government coming out taking care of everything. You know what I'm saying? I'm not gonna oppose it. Like,
but you want the government to get involved and stop abortions.
I never said I don't give a fuck about what anybody does with abortion.
But did you say it's a bigger problem?
Yes, that's a bigger problem. But I didn't give a solution to it. I know it's a problem. I never said what I'm gonna do about it. I could care less. Like, it is what it is, dog. This life is fucking hard, dog. And some children are born in fucked up circumstances, bro. It is what it is.
Yeah, but see, that's the thing.
Yeah, like, and look, it's fair. There is a degree to where you can't save everybody, and so I understand what he's saying there. But like, this is kind of where we have to choose what we want to see in the world. I think, right? Like, do you think it's like I can say I don't want the government to give you like everything. I'm not trying. Like, I don't want the government to stand in and like make sure you have a perfect life. I'm just saying that I want the government to set a decent floor. That's it. Right? There's a decent floor. Like, we are the richest country in the planet, in the history of the world. Like, we can have a better floor, I think. I think that's not asking too much. And so I think this is the question, right? We're not saying you have the greatest things. We're just saying we have a decent floor. That's it. I think these are sometimes the discussions that get lost, right? Because people are just like, oh, you want daddy government to come and save you and do all this. Like, no. In fact, I actually do quite well for myself with my day job. And the government, I don't qualify for any government program ever at this point in my life. And I'm fine with that. But if you are in a position where you would need it, then I'm fine with that too. And I think it should still exist. And I think it should be there. Just because I can't take advantage of it or I don't care to take advantage of it doesn't necessarily mean I think others shouldn't. I think that's kind of the simple logic that needs to be applied in situations like this. But okay, let's keep it going.
I think a lot of people would hear your stance or hear Charlie Kirk's stance and say, you guys aren't the best people because you don't seem to care about making sure that other people in society are okay, right? You guys are more focused on being capitalists and taking care of yourselves, which is okay. Do that. But if people want to look at you and say, well, you guys spread hate out there or you guys spread selfishness, I think that's okay. I think a lot of people allowed to do that.
I never said that was a problem. I said people can say whatever the fuck they want to say. My issue with people was celebrating his death, like championing pom-pom and that shit. That's the epitome of evil to me.
That's the epitome of evil?
Right or left thing.
You think it's more evil to celebrate that man's death than it is for that man to advocate for the fact that children don't get meals?
Yeah, this is this is what I was gonna say. This is one of those like what are your sensibilities type of things, right? Like you can. I didn't want to get into a philosophical discussion earlier, and I'm not going to now. But I'm going to say, like, when you define something as evil, that is it's evil to you, right? Someone can easily say that his view on like where the government steps in to help the least among us is evil, right? And he would be like, no, I'm a capitalist. What are you talking about? Like, all these things are like, at the end of the day, like, what we define as evil is like an opinion, right? Like there are some broader swaths of agreement that people have generally in society, but and there's going to be a lot of things that if you ask someone, they're like, no, like, why would I like you? Like, there's probably some things you would ask people and most people would agree with you on. But I'm still saying at the end of the day, someone has to draw a line somewhere based on their perspective of the world. So, yeah, let's keep it going.
But they can get meals. Is that the only video you've seen him talk about children?
I'm just saying, someone dancing in the room, I think it's bad. No, I agree. I think it's bad that someone danced in the room and thought it was great that Charlie Kirk died. But I also think it's bad that you're out there openly advocating for kids to not get meals in school because we have an obesity problem. I think that's also bad. I think so.
Get meals in school. I'm advocating for kids to take advantage of the surplus of food available to them in different ways that it is.
Yeah.
It's not on somebody to do it, bro. Like, you know, you're shitty parents. I get it, but we disagree on that perspective, dog. Like, you think that the government should step in and save the world. I don't agree with that. I mean, if they do it, I'm not going to contend it. I'm not do what you want to do, bro. But I understand Kirk's perspective in that.
We pay so much in tax dollars, and most of it goes to the military to do funding wars overseas. I don't think it's so crazy to say, hey, man, take 1% of that budget and make sure these kids don't go hungry. Take another 1% of that budget and take care of veterans. But, you know, like maybe that's wrong. I just think it's crazy. Me personally.
I wouldn't disagree with you with that, but I don't disagree with Kirk either. I mean, I don't think he should be painted as a demon for having that viewpoint.
I mean, I think it's pretty demonic to not want kids to have meals, personally. That's me.
He never said he didn't want kids to have meals. Is that the only conversation you seen Abba have discussing that topic?
When he was suggested a food program to make sure that kids who can't get access to good food or decent food or have malnutrition get food, he said, no, that's fucking stupid. Let the parents do it.
Can you answer my question, though? Was that the only video did you let that video play and see what else he said in regards to that discussion?
Yeah, I played it.
And what did he say?
He said that he thinks that the parents should take care of it. The state shouldn't be involved.
Pull it up right now. I've seen it.
You can pull it up, but that's what he said. He said the state should not be involved.
No, bro, you're a victim to the same thing everybody else going through, just getting sucked in by these reels, dog. He's named all these different avenues, these different ways of children to receive food. You're just
hold up. How does a hungry kid get food?
Oh man,
I gave you one example.
What is it?
If he's at school and teachers are aware of what the fuck's going on, and they see a damn child coming in there looking emaciated, I don't know. I don't know what teachers, but I've seen instances where teachers step in and get the correct party involved to help said children.
Okay, so you want the state to get involved to make sure that kid gets school? You literally just that's what you said. You want this? Do you know this?
I never said want. I said these resources are available to them.
But that's what your solution is, right?
That's not my solution. I'm giving you the fact that there's different avenues and resources for children to get food if they need it.
Okay.
I'm not saying what I want. I'm saying what's available to them. There's no reason to starve, dog.
All right. Hey, listen, we'll agree to disagree on this point. No reason for kids but statistically speaking, every year there's so many kids who are suffering from malnutrition. That's what the numbers say. We'll move on to the next point.
And there's so many people that die from car accidents, bro. Fucked up shit happens. Like, we can't save everybody, bro. Like, it is.
But just because we can't save everybody doesn't mean we won't try.
Yeah.
But there's avenues for them to be saved, just maybe not with this school.
Yeah, like, yes, car accidents happen every year. Doesn't mean we don't try to make cars safer. Doesn't mean we don't make roads better.
And there's ways for children to get food.
Okay, man. I'm gonna disagree. I think that stance is crazy.
You don't think there's other ways for children to get food outside?
I don't know. Have you ever been a kid? You think kids just know where?
I'm sorry, but like my guy. I'm sorry, but my guy Stevie Knight here is getting cooked. Okay, like he's getting cooked. I'm sorry, he's getting cooked. I don't feel like he really thinks through his positions. He just kind of says things like how he's feeling, and this is kind of like what happens when you do that, right? You get cooked. You get cooked live on a debate. And look, don't get me wrong. It happens to the best of us sometimes. You get into a discussion, you take a position, you only thought like one layer through on it, and then, you get cooked. But like, this is bad, okay? This is bad. I think it's a little bit of a fallout after this too. We won't go over the fallout here today because like we've been going for a while. But yeah, he's clearly going to be upset about how this debate has turned out for him because this is a terrible look, okay? This is just a terrible look. I'm not gonna lie. Really bad.
To get free food every day? You truly think kids know what the resources are? Like, what are we talking about, man?
I don't know what their day-to-day is, man, but maybe there's meetings or like ways that teachers can express this to children to like educate them on. There's like sex reproduction type of information they get. There's like if there's a potential for a problem to be had, I'm assuming that there may be ways for schools or whomever to express these resources to kids to make them aware of it at least. Like if
what he's doing? He's doing this thing where he's effectively saying like, yeah, there exists something out there. And then Abba's like, okay, how does these things out there get to the people who need them? And then he goes on to say, are you saying this? Because like, for example, when you said, a teacher's going to see something and step in. He's like, okay, so you want the state to step in? No, that's not what I said. And it's like, the example you just gave was a teacher who is an employee of the state to step in and help the child. What are you saying? Right? It's like this thing where he's like, he's trying not to, he's trying to be non-committal because he doesn't like where the answer is going if he accepts it. But then also the answers he's giving lead down to a certain path. Right? And that's exactly what happens again when you're not thinking through it. Right? You're just saying something. You're just chatting. Right? Like this is the problem. This is what this looks like. I just want you to realize that. This is what chatting looks like. You look really terrible. Like my guy Stevie Knight over here. But I mean, listen, I always respect a good debate. I respect people who show up, but like my guy's getting cooked right now.
They come in hungry. Hey, we have this available if you are hungry. You know what I mean? Like I don't know how it is, but there are different ways for children to get food. I'm just making sure off the top of my head of how that connection may occur.
Yeah. I just think in terms of a worldview, we fundamentally disagree on this topic, but it's fine. We can move on to the next topic because I don't want to laugh in circles.
Yeah, but like, look, first of all, like my only issue was the manufactured narrative, and then we got to the bottom of like you saying you were contextualizing it in the video. I didn't receive it as such. I mean, those are mainly the unless you have something. No,
because I think you went over some of the stuff that I had because we both watch each other's videos. Another problem I had, I think this is like I'll pull up the clip too, because this happens around, because I think you said you felt I was very biased. This is a very liberal take on things. That was a quote.
Mm-hmm.
let's see here. I'll come back to that after. Yeah. So when you say this is a very liberal take, after like watching a good like 10 minutes of our video, and you feel like what we're saying when we're saying, hey, both sides engage in political violence, there's a lot of this happening right now. Why do you feel like it's a very liberal or biased take?
I mean, it kind of goes into what I was saying initially, where it was like minimizing the effects of Charlie's tragedy and bringing up other examples to compare it to. And I can't remember.
Okay, just to come back to that, let's say if we could contextualize it, or we couldn't do it the way we want, talk about other political violence, what would you have preferred? Do you prefer that everybody who talks about Charlie's death talks about it in a vacuum and they just talk about him dying? Like, because you didn't like the fact that we talked about like all the other deaths and all that stuff, and that's fine. But like, what would you have preferred?
No, if in that video, if I understood it as you contextualizing it, I wouldn't have a disagreement with you. Okay. I just feel like it was a way to minimize what happened.
I might want to go forward a little bit. I feel like they're starting to spin a little bit here and rehash things that we kind of already gone through. I'm going to give it a little bit more playtime to see if they get into the next topic. I am not too sure. Let's just kind of see where they're going, and maybe I skip ahead a little bit.
Kirk.
Okay.
People can say whatever they want to say.
Okay.
I watched you, I follow you, and I was just surprised by the take.
Okay. I feel like you got a lot of right-wing bias. I feel like you call.
Okay.
I do.
Yeah.
I can agree with you.
Yeah. In the video, you said that you feel like the left is the emotionally driven side. Do you feel like the right is more logical? You said the left is more emotional, so I feel like you think the right is more logical.
Yeah, I'd agree with that take.
So you don't feel like the right engages in a lot of hysteria or a lot of emotionality?
Yeah, they do.
Do you feel?
I think a valid, I guess, a label for the left. I mean, with the whole different nuance, there's much more nuances in different ways that the left operates, man. Outside of like racism and racism, I feel like the right gets crazy extremists with racism and like transphobia or whatnot, man. But there's just lots of spectrums to perspectives and different ways of looking at life and mental health type of things that derive mentally and emotionally from the left, which is propagated mostly on. I mean, all I see is on social media, but that doesn't appear as much on the right. It's usually like a nationalist or some white supremacist or some anti-gay that's out here doing the utmost.
Yeah. Okay.
I'm still feeling like I need to make this faster because like I'm sorry. All right, or maybe it's just me. All right, let's keep it going. They're about to get to their main crux of this segment. I just all right.
There's not a lot of conversations as far as gender dysphoria. That's a mentally emotional type of conversation that is very relevant. The whole LGBTQ thing, and you get children involved, and it's much more nuanced, much more layered. The right wing is much.
Why they jump to children
more
for?
Based on traditions and values, and then you got motherfuckers that are super traditional and super values, and that's when it gets hateful.
Do you think like?
Real quick, so he is conservative. Yes, generally speaking. I've seen some of his videos before. He's not like conservative like the Hodge twins, effectively, or someone who is like super overtly political. But his leanings are more conservative. Very, very, very true. I think I've definitely seen some of his videos before. I see where he's leaning. The more so I'd say the thought process or the things that animate him are you can kind of infer he's more conservative, and then even he kind of more or less admitted to that, saying he accepts that he has more of a right wing bias. So again, he's not as overtly political as some of the other characters out there, but like everyone has their leanings, right? So yeah, for sure.
Do you think that traditions and values are logic based?
Oh, hold on. Let's bring it back to that question.
Based on traditions and values, and then you got motherfuckers that are super traditional and super values, and that's when it gets hateful.
Do you think that traditions and values are logic based?
Definitely not all the time.
It's a twofold. Some of it is based on religion, but then like you can apply logic to it. You know what I mean? Because it's been a tradition because something has worked for so long, right? So if it's working, we we built this logic to know it works this way. We sustained the quality of life for this long, so we know based on our tradition that this thing works. And then when we take take tradition and values away, we have this mess we're in right now.
I mean, I fundamentally disagree with that. People have done certain things for thousands of years, from human sacrifices to all kinds of really fucked up traditions. And
I'm focusing here.
Oh man. I'm not gonna lie, it's kind of funny. Like I think, sorry, it's just one of those moments where like you might be in a frame of mind where you're trying to answer a question and your mind is going one place, and then someone just comes like they just come left field with some crazy example. You're like, all right, like I wasn't trying to agree to that. I was just like I was just trying to say like, hey, like, sometimes we do things, it works for a little bit, so we kept it going. And then Abba hit him with they was doing things like human sacrifices for hundreds of years before we decided that wasn't a thing anymore. But yeah, no, I mean, listen, I agree with Abba on that as well. Not the human sacrifices, but like just because we've been doing things for a certain part doesn't mean it's always worked, and doesn't mean that it's always necessarily logical. A lot of times, sometimes things just like people do it because people have done it, but it doesn't mean it was logical. It just means it was tradition. So this idea that they're talking about in reference to tradition and whether or not they feel as though, because he was talking about earlier, he's like, he was trying to describe the difference with between liberals and conservatives, and he was like, oh, I think a lot of the times conservatives are more steeped in tradition and things like that, and they're generally less emotional. And I think Abba is drawing out this long idea to kind of demonstrate that like, no, there's definitely an emotionality that you will find with conservatives, and you can even see it when you talk about like this idea of tradition, right? Because a lot of the times it's not necessarily logic based. It's just like it's what we've done, and like Stevie was trying to say, you can apply a logic to it, but like, is it a good logic? Does it actually make sense? Like, no, but like it's part of the culture, and so people do it. So I mean, that's my take on it. That's where I think it would go. Let's see how Abba lays out that case, but I think this is more or less where it's going. Let's keep it going, I guess.
No perfect way of doing things, bro, but I think I'm the simpler the better, man. There's not room for extra bullshit. You know what I'm saying? And there's a lot more crazy things going on because we've opened up the gates, and we scale it back. And I'm not talking about nationalism, white supremacy, whatever, man. People can do what they want to do. But when you let everybody just follow their feelings and follow their heart and do what they want to do and don't apply any logic, then problems arise.
Do you think faith in religion is logical?
No.
Right, but that's what a lot of the right is driven by, no? And to be honest with you, I don't think everything about religion is necessarily logical. There's plenty of laws and rules in there that are good principles to have in everyday life. But I just reject this notion.
I'm not religious. You know what I'm saying?
Right. But you made the assertion that you feel like the left is more emotional. But I would argue that if you are very religious, that a lot of that is based in emotion. It's based in faith. It's based in ideas. This idea that lefties are all emotional, but righties are more lefties are more emotional and righties are more logical. It's just like. I think it's a very
raising it that way is making it much more extreme than what I was trying to convey. Just think that the label of emotional is more along the lines of the left than the right. I'm not out here saying every lefty is lunatic.
Actually, I mean, I really agree with Abba. Like, I agree with Abba's train of thought here, because I mean, he's right. Like, this is, and like, oh man, there's just so much to unpack here. I feel like sometimes the who is emotional and the who's weak and all this like stupid stuff is really just like who does better branding to convey the other side as a certain thing, and who is more convinced by it. Because I agree with everything Abba is saying here, right? Like we would talk about emotionality and all these different things, but when we talk about these traditions that are typically adopted by more conservative folks, like we are talking about feelings a lot of the times. But like they're just not seen as feelings. They're seen as like, oh, this is the truth. This is what it needs to be. And it's like, well, no, it's just feelings, right? It's feelings about your culture, about your traditions, about like your belief systems, and like you're just moving off of that, and that's fine, I guess. But like, don't then try to turn around and act like you're the most logical person in the world. Like, it's not what we're doing here, right? It's I don't know. It's weird. Let's see. Miragalise, I am Charlie Kirk. Well, okay. Glad to see you're back. Guess. Let's keep it going.
I understand the stigma or whatnot. I'm not.
Yeah, I personally think the problem is.
And by the way, my bad. I completely butchered your name. I'm going to try this again. And Geese. Yep. Nope. Second time wasn't working out. But anyways, thanks for joining the stream. Let's keep it going.
You're demonizing the idea of emotionality, and especially in the way that the left might express it. But I think being emotional in healthy doses is very, very good. And much of the way that the right expresses it, if done well, can also be very, very good. But this idea, you almost made it like a critique that the left is more emotional.
Yeah.
But in my head, I'm like, well, just today, right? Or yesterday, during the memorial, I watched Charlie Kirk's wife give a speech. It was hyper emotional. It was very faith-based. There wasn't necessarily logic to it all the time, but it was still very beautiful. It was very moving. And that sense of emotionality is something that I appreciate. I just think sometimes...
I would too, but I think problems arise.
Yeah, and I agree with that sentiment as well. Like sometimes being like, I think what happens a lot of the times is that, like, kind of like what we were talking about earlier, right? This idea that I was talking about of like, hey, I think it would be helpful if we could extend a helping hand to those who are the least among us in our society. That way we have a better floor, so that way people don't fall too far beneath the cracks, right? That's like, it's like you're trying to be empathetic. You're trying to help your neighbor, right? Effectively. And I feel like that view will be looked at as some people as like, oh, well, that's a weak lib. Like, you're a weak libtard. like stupid stuff like that, right? It's like, oh, like well, hey, the life is rugged, kid. Get used to it. Stuff like that. And what I'm saying is ridiculous. But then at the same time, like there are elements there are elements that might be seen as emotional within people that I don't think is a bad thing. It's just that it is painted that way, and people don't like to be painted as weak, right? And like and so it feels like some of the best things about humans sometimes when it comes to being empathetic or sympathetic, like from a branding perspective, you don't necessarily want to be, especially if you're a guy, I feel like, and that's a whole nother discussion. But I think that's ridiculous, and I think there's definitely a way to be that and to do that and to I don't know, get through all the noise, right? But yeah, where was I going with this? Anyways, Charlie Kirk's wife, her speech was very, very moving, and it's gonna be one of those things where it's like, if you've seen it, you see that it is incredibly moving, and it's like, I think it's everything you'd want to do for a speech like that. And I'll just say that, full stop, with hers alone. I'll say some of the other people who spoke on stage were kind of ridiculous, and that's including the president in this case. But her speech, truly moving, truly impressive, and I mean, kind of sad.
Derived from the right and the left when the right does, I'm only focused on the bad things. That's what we focus on, right? If it's good, who cares? Everything's working. But the bad, there's an argument to be made that when bad shit goes awry, it's because people's emotional connection or just mentally unstableness to how they align.
I would agree with that.
All I'm saying with the left, there's more opportunity for error because of so many different ways you can go about this, man. Like just quantitatively, right? There's much more margin for error emotionally with the left because of everything that the left has going on. The right is simple.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, I disagree with that characterization, but I understand what you're getting at. But that's fine. I think that's okay. I think this is the last point that I really wanted to bring up. Let's see here. So I just want to make sure I kind of get to everything, just so that we can close out this up on a decent note. At one point during the thing, and I appreciate the fact that we mentioned the fact that most political violence happens on the right. And you said, I need to fact check that. You looked it up. I want to ask you, when you looked it up, what did you see?
Yeah, that's a good question, actually.
More right-wing violence.
Right.
Okay.
And when I brought this up, a lot of people had a negative reaction. They didn't believe it. They said, violence is very left-wing. I know you didn't. And I appreciate the fact that you looked it up, because a lot of people would be very disingenuous and won't even do that. A lot of the political discourse right now is in the direction that I was telling you about earlier, which is like framing the left as the more political violent party, even though it's not true. This is going viral everywhere, but none of the numbers support that. And I'm curious, from your perspective, why do you think that perspective is out there?
Because Kirk just got killed by the left.
Okay.
I think if it was different and some white supremacists, put another Charleston, we'd be seeing the same thing another way. Because
I will say, I just think he's right to say because Kirk just got killed by the left, but I also say it's because when these things happen, it's the response between the left and the right. Like I said, when I said this earlier in this live stream, when these type of things happen, the leftists or the left of center political leaders just disavow it. They don't try to say, you know, oh, it was a right winger, it was this, that. They just say political violence in any way, shape, or form is terrible. When there's a school shooting, this is terrible, whatever it is. But immediately what happens is on the right, they immediately try to identify and say that that person and everything that they stood for was a left-wing thing. And so I think this perception exists because the folks and the political leaders, they have pushed a narrative that made it exist, right? It's like one side is fighting to make the other side look terrible, and one side is just trying to like play nice. You can't have that when you like it. This is what I think adds to that perception. Also, I think it's the fact that when we talk about some of the political violence that happens, that is perpetrated by folks on the right, like these stats would always say, it's because they're just like, I mean, how much like. I think there was a mass shooting that people were talking about like yesterday, and I can't even tell you who was involved. Right? Like it just happens so much that I think what winds up happening is that people can't put the people who lost their lives, they can't put the names to faces, and they can't like, it's like unless you're spending the time to read every single one of these things, you with everything else that you have going on, you don't, unfortunately, and this sounds terrible here, but you don't have the time to put these names to occupy the space in your mind. And I think when you do that, you kind of lose sight of the scale to which these things are happening. And so like, yeah, you take a Charlie Kirk, you're like, oh, that's a right-wing figure. Oh, Trump got shot last year. That was a right-wing figure. You feel like, oh, is it happening more? And I'm like, well, if you think about the major folks where it happened with and those things occupy your mind, then like it would appear that way. But like, you know, oh man, there was like these senators that got shot, they got gunned down recently. They were Democratic senators, and you hear about all these situations. Like, basically, what winds up happening is that you don't have the name. I mean, like I'm making the point right now, right? I forgot their names of the people who were shot and gunned down, who were literally Democratic senators, right? And so, Democratic state senators. And so I think when the perception is that you can't even remember all the people who are affected on one side and you can only remember the people who are affected on the other side, it leaves you with a skewed view of the reality and the stats. In addition to political leaders and the games that they play after these events happen. I think that's what's happening here. But anyways, let's keep it going.
Like we got the right got, you know, labeled as racist and all that. You know, another white supremacists out here killing a bunch of, you know what I mean? I think it's more, I think this is the more I don't call it viral, but it went viral. This event had the most attention towards it because of the nuance that came with it, man. But I think every time an extremist or active terror comes and we figure out who did it, we're going to blame that side until something else happens.
Got you. And this is the last thing I want to talk to you about. Actually, the last one. At 3:58, you said, and I think you've repeated this, you said, ain't no talking to them, nothing needs to be said, they need to be controlled. You were talking about people who were engaging in political violence, or the people, or the evil people who are like celebrating, maybe? I don't know.
Yeah, Jaron, you've seen that despicable shit, bro. Like, ain't no talking to them.
Yeah. Do you, okay. Well, this will be the last point. So what would you want to do with these people? Because like in the video, you went kind of wild. You said, hey, these people need to be exiled. You said they need to be decapitated. I was like, damn.
I was giving everybody that's on the good end that feels the type of way to feel heard in what I was trying to voice, bro. You know what I mean? Like if something violent happened to them, if they lost their job, if they lost their freedom, like, cause that's literally evil, bro. We don't got no time for evil. There's literally no talking to them. So we just expect them to just continue to like simmer down and not continue their evil.
Damn, man, you gonna make me the most like lip cut person in the world right now. I'm a disagree with you. I think people who do evil things aren't necessarily evil. I think sometimes they're hurt. I think sometimes they are in a really bad place. I think sometimes these are folks that, you know, and it's almost ironic too, because I do believe that people should be punished for the things that they do and they should suffer those consequences, but I don't think they're irredeemable. Labeling someone evil, I think, is a way for us to look at something and then simplify it. But the reality is that things are complex. People are complex, and the reason why they get to that place is very difficult. You know, there's plenty of people.
Oh, man. Hold on, guys. 1 second. A bit of a technical difficulty here. Well, that's great. Oh, no. 1 second, guys. This is not Great. Oh man. All right. Well, guys, I'm gonna have to end the stream here. My camera overheated and turned right off. I didn't have the fan on. Oh man, this is terrible. These are some of the things that happen in a live stream, and my backup camera is not set up for this right now. Let's see if I can get something up. Hold on 1 second, guys. Oh man, this is terrible. Oh man, this is bad. Let's see if I could do a little bit of on the fly changing here. See if I can fix this thing. I can't because my other camera's off too. Well, thanks for joining the stream. I'm gonna have to end it right here. This is not gonna get fixed in time, and